Hello again. This is the third video in a 6-part series about the dangers of dogs crapping all over our neighborhoods. In order to get all of the information, I hope you watch all 6 of them. If you have not watched parts 1 and 2, please watch them before you watch this one. Unfortunately, dogs now go, with their contaminated paws and bare anus, into airports, libraries, hospitals, hospices, schools, grocery stores, coffee shops, and everywhere you can imagine. Their owners are also contaminated because they handle feces bags and touch their dogs' mouths every 5 seconds. Dogs could also have toxocara eggs in their mouths from making constant contact with the ground outside where other dogs have defecated. They can even have toxocara eggs in their fur, and you could get one on your hand just from touching a dog. Or, a dog with toxocara eggs in its fur could simply rub against you, or shake. There is even evidence that they can be inhaled. So, in order for us to be safe, every dog owner would have to be following a perfect deworming protocol, including deworming medicine every few months, and a fecal check twice a year, to reduce, but not completely remove all parasites. We know that not every dog owner is doing this, because the ground outside would not be contaminated if they were, and if the treatments were completely effective. Most of these areas are permanently contaminated with toxocara larvae, because they are getting continually reinfected. Remember, the infective toxocara eggs remain, invisible, in the soil, years after the feces appears to be gone. 40% of dog owners don't pick up, as you can clearly see if you step outside. But even those that do leave traces behind, that may contain toxocara eggs. Dogs repeatedly come into contact with the eggs because as soon as they go outside, they put their nose to the ground, seeking, finding, making contact with, and sometimes ingesting other dogs' feces, among many other things that may be on the ground, like human spit, cigarette butts, feces from wild animals, dead animals, pesticide residue, and garbage. Dead wildlife may also have encysted toxocara eggs in their flesh, as secondary hosts, which can be consumed by a dog. Dogs are also, of course, stepping on feces, and then walking into your home, and sometimes even getting on your furniture, into your bed, and licking you. More dogs are even kicking behind themselves after they shit, to spread pathogens even further. Humans can get infected with toxocara canis. It is zoonotic, just like Toxoplasma gondii. Only dogs or other canids are the natural host. Humans, if they get it, are paratenic, or accidental hosts. Here is a brief description of the life cycle of dog roundworms. A dog passes toxocara-infected feces on the ground. After a few weeks, the eggs embryonate, and become infective. The infective eggs remain in the soil, for months, or years, even after the feces appears to be gone, because they have a very environmentally resistant thick shell. It is almost impossible to disinfect the soil from toxocara eggs. Another dog ingests the eggs. They hatch in the intestinal tract, burrow out of the intestine and begin migrating throughout the dog's body, to various organs. In younger dogs, they travel from the liver, to the lungs, and then to the trachea, where they are coughed up, swallowed, and then go back into the intestine where they mature into adults, mate, and produce eggs. Females can produce up to 200,000 eggs daily. Not all of the worm larvae return to the intestine. They become encysted in the muscles and other organs, and lay dormant, forever. That is why your dog is never actually free of worms. Almost all puppies are infected, and they remain infected for life. In older dogs, some penetrate the intestinal wall, but some fail. Of the ones that do, some fail to migrate to the lungs, and back to the intestine to mature as egg-producing adult worms. Instead, a lot of them migrate to tissues and become encysted, in the muscles, liver, and kidneys. If a dog ingests eggs that were encysted in the flesh of another animal, they can develop an infection without migration occurring. So, older dogs are less likely to be shedding eggs, but they still can. They still come into contact with the eggs, and get them on their paws, fur, and mouth, and then bring them into your home. In pregnant dogs, the dormant larvae are reactivated in the last trimester of pregnancy by hormones, and they travel to the uterus and infect the unborn pups. They also travel to the mammary glands, and infect the pups after they are born. Newborn puppies are heavily infected with worms since their immune systems don't fight them off very well yet. The mother dog eats the puppy's feces, thereby reinfecting herself. Human babies are not born with worms. Human mother's breast milk does not contain worms. Human mothers take care of their babies and clean them, but we don't eat our babies' feces. We are not dogs. It is disgusting that all puppies are born with worms that they get from their mothers, and they continually get them over and over again for the rest of their lives, never really being free of worms, despite being treated for them. The ground in our living areas, where people walk, and children play, is contaminated with toxocara eggs, because they stay infectious in soil for years. Dogs should actually not be allowed in most public places because of this. We are not protecting our children from this. We are putting pet ownership, particularly dog ownership, above the safety and health of our children. It's beyond insane, and needs to be stopped. Children should not actually even be in a house where there are puppies. Remember, all of the worm larvae that are migrating in a dog are not killed by deworming medicine. After they are cleared from the intestine, they are replaced by new worms, either from constant reinfection from the environment or worm larvae leaving their cysts and migrating back to the intestine from the flesh. Think about it, if it was possible to deworm a dog, why wouldn't female dogs get dewormed before or during pregnancy? Why are they heavily infested with worms, and all puppies born with worms? It is because it is not possible to deworm a dog. It is only possible, with continuous use of dewormers, to reduce the amount of worms in a dog's intestinal tract, not to eradicate them completely from the dog's body. In fact, vets don't give dewormers too often, because the worms might become resistant to them. So, it's a balance, that does not eradicate the worms. Since dogs are constantly coming into contact with new toxocara larvae from the areas where other dogs have shit, they may have toxocara eggs in their mouths or on their fur. You can come into contact with them just from touching a dog, or from it shaking, or licking you. After all, this creature licks and eats feces, garbage, dead animals, licks its own anus, and greets other dogs by making contact with the dog's bare, open anus with its mouth, and rolls in other animals' feces when it gets an opportunity. So, how prevalent is toxocara in the soil in our neighborhoods? Are we actually walking on toxocara-infected soil even though the dog feces appears to be long gone? In 2020, scientists tested soil samples from 91 parks and playgrounds in New York, and found infection rates ranging from 29% of parks in wealthier neighborhoods, to 66.7% of parks in poorer neighborhoods. 10 out of 15 children's playgrounds contain toxocara eggs in the soil. This included both dog and cat roundworms, although everything else I researched showed that it is the dog roundworm that is the primary problem, because of the way dogs shit indiscriminately everywhere. It is always toxocara canis that is found to be the culprit, causing blindness in children when the worms migrate to children's eyes. Thomas Nutman, chief of the Laboratory of Parasitic Diseases at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, said, "It's really important for us to understand that these neglected diseases, toxocara being one of them, are still a huge problem, the extent of which we don't yet know, because we haven't really looked." Wow! We are prioritizing pet culture over protecting our children's brains and eyes. How unconscionable, sad, terrifying, and backward. These eggs can survive the winter. In Germany, researchers found toxocara eggs in 23.9% of playground sandpits, and in Valencia, Spain, they found no toxocara eggs in parks and playgrounds, because they don't allow dogs in, but toxocara eggs were found in dog parks. The authors said it's crucial for children to wash their hands with soap and water after playing outside, and advised that antibacterial sanitizers do not kill toxocara eggs. So, it is not practical to expect that children wash their hands with soap and water every time they have been outside. What if the child has a dog in his own home, or in homes and yards he visits? What if the child touches his face before he gets home or goes back into school after recess? Do all school children wash their hands with soap and water when they come in from recess, and before lunch? No, they don't. Even if they did, don't children, and adults, touch their faces all the time? Of course they do. And what if there is a therapy dog in the classroom, or a reading dog in the library? What if adults are deliberately bringing these toxic creatures into the very places that they absolutely should not be? How are our children supposed to avoid them? Does every child wash with soap and water after making any contact with the dog, or where the dog has been? Of course not. And what about all of the dog people picking up and handling their feces bags, and then handling door handles and everything else with their contaminated hands? I see videos of dog people having their dogs shit outside of stores, in parking lots, and then go into the store, even to eat, with feces bag hands. Now, horrifyingly, I'm even seeing dog people bringing their beasts into stores, where they shit in the store. People think it's a joke. In one comment, someone proudly boasted that their dog crapped in Best Buy. And since they stayed and cleaned it, although it is impossible that it was cleaned with proper protocols, Best Buy gave them a $100 gift certificate for making their premises unsafe for children, or anyone of any age, to be in. These measures are impractical. We need to stop contaminating our children's living and playing areas with toxocara eggs in the first place. I'm going to say that again. We need to stop contaminating our children's living and playing areas with toxocara eggs in the first place, and this should be deemed more important than pet culture. Protecting children is more important than catering to someone who claims they need to lie down in a store and have a dog lie on top of them or they will die. Why can't they just have a bag of potatoes on top of them? Our children's safety and health is more important than pets. I hope you will stay tuned for the fourth video, which is coming up soon.